After discovering that my wife had been unfaithful for nearly 2 decades, I made the heart-wrenching decision to end our marriage. We were together for 20 years, almost half my life. I'm 43, and she's 44. What started as a high school romance when I was a junior and she was a senior quickly blossomed into a full-fledged relationship. Throughout the ups and downs of life, we were inseparable, always side by side. We survived the challenges of long distance when she went to college, and I remained at home for a year before joining her in the same city. We got married after I graduated, and life, it seemed, was on a clear upward trajectory. Our relationship, we thought, was unshakable. But a few weeks ago, everything changed. I found out completely by accident that my wife had been unfaithful for years. The discovery came about during a casual dinner with some of her college friends. We were reminiscing about our younger days when one of her roommates made a comment about how extraordinary it was that we'd met in high school, survived our college years, and still ended up together. I jokingly responded that I wasn't sure my wife had been as wild as I had been during those college years. But before I could elaborate, the roommate began to tell a story from those days. Suddenly, my wife cut her off, visibly uncomfortable. This was strange. Why would she react so defensively about something that seemed innocent enough? I pressed the matter further, clarifying that we'd actually been dating all throughout high school and through her college years. The atmosphere grew tense, and there was an awkward silence. As we were leaving, one of her other friends pulled me aside. She suggested I talk to my wife about what really happened during her college years, hinting that there was more to the story than I knew. That night, a feeling of unease washed over me, and I couldn't stop thinking about the conversation. On the way home, I asked my wife if there was something I needed to know. She dismissed it, brushing off the idea that anything out of the ordinary had happened. Still, I couldn't shake the suspicion that there was more to the story. So I told her I would be staying at my brother's house until she was ready to tell me the truth. The next morning, she came over visibly anxious and reluctant, but eventually she admitted to me that she'd been involved with multiple men during her first 2 years of college. I was blindsided. At first, she tried to downplay it, saying that it didn't matter because we were long distance, and she didn't think a high school romance would last. But then, the truth came out. She had slept with at least 10 men, including 3 whom she had introduced to me as friends during my weekend visits. She was still in contact with one of them. The betrayal cut me to the core. I felt a wave of anger and disbelief. How could she maintain these relationships right under my nose, introducing me to the men she had been sleeping with? In that moment, I knew our marriage could not survive this. I immediately told her I wanted a divorce, and I began the paperwork the very next day. Her attempts to minimize her actions, insisting it wasn't a big deal, only confirmed my decision. This wasn't just about the affairs. It was about the years of lies, the deceit, and the utter disrespect. Despite my decision, my family and hers urged me to reconsider. They all said I was overreacting, that it was a mistake, and everyone makes mistakes. They encouraged me to forgive her for the sake of our family and the long history we shared. But to me, this was about more than just a few mistakes. It was about a pattern of betrayal that had stretched across 2 decades. She had cheated on me with multiple men during the 2 years we were apart, and then she had kept those men in her life, allowing me to think of them as just friends. How could I trust her again? Our children, who are now 17 and 19, are practically adults. They've seen us as a loving couple, and I hope they understand that my decision isn't about revenge or anger. It's about my self-respect and dignity. If I let this go, I'd be teaching them that dishonesty and betrayal are acceptable. The voices urging me to forgive her and move on are everywhere, but they don't see what I see. How can I erase the memories of our life together when I now know that they were built on lies? The infidelity wasn't the only thing that hurt. It was her complete lack of remorse. When I confronted her, she dismissed my feelings, telling me that what she did wasn't a big deal. How can I reconcile with someone who refuses to acknowledge the depth of the pain they've caused? How can I move forward when every interaction with her feels like gaslighting? Some people believe that infidelity is normal in long-distance relationships, and I'm hearing that from my wife's friends as well. But I don't buy it. We were exclusive. During the time she was away at college, I didn't sleep with anyone else. I made it clear to her that I was committed to our relationship. In fact, we had a long conversation before she left for school about maintaining our relationship, and she assured me that she would stay faithful to me. She joked that her father would come after me if I started seeing other girls. Her actions, like getting upset when I suggested attending prom with another girl, showed how seriously we took our commitment. I spoke to the guy who was still in our lives, the one she had been involved with during her college years. He didn't know we were dating back then, and once I told him the truth, he blocked her out of respect for me. I don't think it matters that the number of men she slept with might have been more or less than 10. What matters is that she was dishonest, and I was kept in the dark about her relationships. I also tried to keep the door open for therapy or reconciliation, but her refusal to acknowledge the gravity of her actions made that impossible. She still insists that what she did was normal, and I'm overreacting. Her failure to show any real remorse only deepens my resolve. Her apologies were shallow and empty. She only started to express regret when she realized I was serious about filing for divorce. But that moment passed quickly, and she returned to her dismissive attitude. I've already begun the process of separation. I've hired a lawyer, and the paperwork has been filed. I'm staying with my brother for the time being, and I've made arrangements for our children's future. Financially, we're stable, and custody won't be an issue. What's left is moving forward with the divorce and finding closure. I'm not overreacting. I'm standing up for myself. I deserve to be in a relationship built on trust and mutual respect, not one where my feelings are ignored and my trust is shattered. It's not about revenge. It's about protecting myself and knowing when to walk away. The journey toward divorce, a story of betrayal, reflection, and moving on. After our confrontation, I decided to give my wife some space. I moved out for 5 days, during which we had several deep conversations. It quickly became clear that she didn't think she had done anything wrong. Her attitude was dismissive. She showed no remorse, no regret, and seemingly no care for my feelings. If she had even expressed a bit of empathy, I might have reconsidered my decision to leave, but her coldness made it impossible. I couldn't stay in a marriage with someone who didn't understand the gravity of their actions. So, I took the next step. I hired a divorce lawyer. We quickly filled out the necessary paperwork for separation, and I sent the documents the same day. Even though we aren't officially divorced yet, and I'm not sure if legal separation is even recognized in my state, I've made it clear that I'm moving forward. The process has begun, and there's no turning back. Discovering the truth, one of the hardest parts of this journey, was the truth I uncovered about my wife's college years. During our marriage, I had never questioned her past. But after we started attending counseling, and after speaking with 2 of her former roommates, it became clear that there were things she had never shared with me. Her roommates had always suspected something was off, but they never spoke up. They hinted at infidelity during her college days, and when I confronted my wife about it, the truth came pouring out. It turned out that my wife had been involved with several men during college, some of whom were not just casual flings, but serious enough to cause major problems. One of the men she had slept with later went on to marry one of our mutual college friends, a friend she remained in contact with after we got married. My wife tried to deflect blame initially, claiming that I had pushed her into these situations. But through therapy and her own reflection, she eventually admitted that it was wrong. The more I learned, the more I felt betrayed. At the time, when I visited her during college, She always insisted we stay in her room or hang out alone. But I wanted to experience college life, the parties, the people, everything I had missed out on in high school and community college. I never expected to meet the guys she had been with, but many of them were at these parties, and she couldn't avoid them. This was still a violation of our trust, though, even if she hadn't intentionally paraded me in front of them. It became clear that her past was riddled with half-truths and omissions, making it even harder for me to process everything. Her roommates, although sympathetic, had never intervened. They had watched her maintain a facade of fidelity for years, and now I was left picking up the pieces of a shattered trust. The most difficult part for me was her rationalization. She claimed that none of her relationships with these men were serious. They were mostly one-night stands or casual flings, so in her mind, they didn't matter. This was a glaring double standard, though, because she had always discouraged me from doing anything similar. I felt like she had betrayed not only me, but also the very foundation of our relationship. Eventually, after numerous therapy sessions, my wife began to understand my point of view. She acknowledged that what she had done was a breach of our trust and the core of our marriage. Although the possibility of saving our marriage seemed far-fetched, being able to talk openly about the past was a step toward a healthier relationship, at least as co-parents. Why divorce became inevitable. Despite the progress we made in therapy, two critical things made it clear to me that divorce was the only way forward. The first was a painful realization about our intimacy issues. About 10 years ago, we hit a rough patch and went nearly 2 years without any physical closeness. When I tried to bring some excitement back into our relationship, suggesting things like light role play or using some novelty items, she responded strangely. She admitted that she was fixated on past intimate experiences from her college days, experiences she felt guilty about, especially when they reminded her of other men. She insisted these encounters were meaningless, but their lasting impact on her made me question that. The second issue was her confession about flirting with coworkers during business trips. Although she claimed nothing physical happened, it escalated to the point where she went on a date with one of her colleagues. For me, that was the final straw. I had already lost trust in her, and these revelations confirmed that she was willing to cross boundaries again, even after everything we had been through. Together, these two incidents shattered any remaining hope I had of salvaging our marriage. The hard conversation, we had to sit down with our children and explain the situation. Our 19-year-old, who was away at college, asked a direct question. "Dad, did you cheat on Mom while she was at school?" This caught my wife off guard, but she owned up to her actions. It was a painful moment, but it was crucial that our kids understood the truth. Without getting into the painful details, we reassured them that both of us were committed to co-parenting and would be there for them no matter what. We also made it clear that our therapy was focused on helping us both through this process for the sake of our family. The kids have my full support if they need to talk to me or anyone else about the situation. We want them to feel safe expressing their feelings and seeking help when necessary. Moving on, the divorce process has been relatively smooth. My wife and I are financially stable, and custody isn't a significant issue with our kids being older. We've agreed to divide our assets fairly, including our retirement funds and personal belongings. We even came to an agreement about the house. She wanted to keep it, so she took out a mortgage to pay me for my half of the equity and the furniture's replacement value. The kids spent most of their time with me, which was my biggest concern during the divorce. Despite everything, our relationship remains close, and that's been a bright spot. Personally, I've started fresh. I moved into a new house, one I truly love. And as part of my midlife crisis, I even traded in my old minivan for a sleek Lexus. I've also been invited on a coffee date by a woman I work with. And while I'm not ready to date just yet, it's been nice to know that someone finds me interesting. Even with all the pain, I'm beginning to embrace this new chapter in my life. Final thoughts. Going through this divorce has been one of the most challenging experiences of my life, but I'm learning to accept it. I've attended therapy to help me cope both individually and as part of our joint sessions. We are still figuring out how to co-parent effectively, but I feel good about the decisions I've made. There is still a lot of healing to do, but I'm hopeful. I've learned the importance of honesty, and I know I'll carry that lesson with me into the future.